Okay, so for our deep dive today, you've brought in this really interesting systematic review.
Yeah, that's right. It's called Measuring the Quality of Adult-Child Interactions in the Context of ECEC. Quite a mouthful.
Yeah. A systematic review on the relationship with developmental and educational outcomes.
Exactly.
So let's just get straight into it. Our mission here really is to pull out the key stuff from this huge review, right? What does it tell us about those daily interactions in early childhood education, ECEC, and how they actually impact kids' development?
Precisely. Think of it as we're doing the heavy lifting, waiting through the research for you.
Good, because it looks like a lot.
It is. This review synthesized 90 different studies, published
Yeah.
between 2000 and 2022.
There are 90 studies. Wow.
Yeah. And get this, they analyzed 870 different associations.
870.
Yep. All looking at how the quality of those interactions between adults and kids aged 3 to 5 in ECEC settings connects to how those children grow and learn.
Okay, 870 connections. So for someone listening, trying to make sense of it all, what's the main problem this massive review is trying to solve?
Well, the review points out this big challenge we have. I mean, we all kind of know early childhood is super important.
Right.
And lots of research suggests good ECEC helps kids long term.
Hmm.
But the findings across studies have been, well, inconsistent. So it's
Yeah.
been hard to say definitively, like, which specific parts of those adult-child interactions really move the needle for kids' progress. This review tries to unpack some of that inconsistency.
Got it. So we're hoping to get a clearer picture from this. Okay, so the review kind of sets the stage first, talking about ECEC quality generally. What's the basic thinking there?
The standard view is that these early years are foundational. High-quality ECC is, widely seen as linked to better outcomes later on school, work, life in general.
Makes sense.
And usually when people talk about quality, they break it down into two main types.
Okay, yeah, I saw this. It was process quality and structural quality.
That's it. Process quality is all about the direct experiences.
Hmm.
The interactions, the activities, the curriculum, how adults and kids actually engage.
The day-to-day stuff.
Exactly. Where structural quality is more the organizational side.
Hmm.
Things like staff qualifications, child-to-adult ratios, group sizes, the physical space maybe.
Right. And the common idea is that the structure kind of enables the process.
Yeah, the traditional thinking is that good structural quality, like having well-trained staff and not too many kids per adult, sets the stage, making it possible to have those high-quality interactions.
Okay, that seems logical. You need the right setup. And the review mentions this global push to actually measure and improve EC quality.
Oh, absolutely. It's a big focus internationally. You see systems like the QRIS, the Quality Ratings and Improvement System in the U.S., the Early Years Foundation stage in the U.K. Australia's got its national framework. Lots of countries are trying to define and assess quality.
And they use specific tools for that, right? You mentioned CLAS and ESERS earlier.
Yeah, those are probably two of the best known ones. That's the Classroom Assessment Scoring System. And ESERS, the Early Childhood Environment Rating Scale.
Okay.
There are others too, like EIDERS for younger kids, SS2, which looks at thinking and well-being. They all try to measure quality, but they focus on slightly different things, use different methods.
So lots of effort going into measuring this quality, which brings us back to the core question for, anyone interested in this. Do higher scores on these tools actually mean better outcomes for the kids?
That's exactly what the review digs into.
Yeah.
They wanted to test that assumption. Is there a solid, consistent link?
What did they find? Because you mentioned something surprising about the global measure.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So when they looked at these broad global ECE quality indices.
Indices.
Yeah.
Like an overall score that captures lots of different things at once.
Exactly. Like the total score you might get from ESERS, for instance.
Okay.
It often mixes interaction quality with things like the physical space, materials available, maybe even some structural bits.
A kind of general quality grade.
Right. And the review found, well, little evidence that these big global scores consistently predict child outcomes.
Little evidence.
Really?
Yeah. Only about 17% of the associations they looked at were statistically significant.
17%. Wow. That seems low considering how much emphasis is often placed on these overall ratings. Any thoughts on why that might be?
Well, the review suggests maybe these global scores try to average too many different things together. Take ECERS, again, it looks at interaction, sure, but also the physical setup. And other research often finds that structural quality on its own has a pretty weak direct link to child development.
Okay.
So if you mix those weaker structural links with the potentially stronger interaction links, the overall score might get kind of watered down as a predictor. It's maybe not specific enough.
Like a blurry photo instead of a sharp one.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so the big picture score isn't necessarily the best predictor.
Hmm.
What happened when they zoomed in a bit, focusing just on process quality, the interactions and experiences? Okay, so when they narrowed it down to just process quality, really focusing on those interactions and learning activities, the connection did look a bit stronger.
How much stronger?
They found around 31% of those associations were significant.
Okay, 31%. So better than 17, definitely. It suggests focusing on the actual classroom dynamics is more telling.
It seems that way. Measures like the total class pre-K score, for example, fall into this category.
Because class is specifically looking at those interactions, right?
Exactly. It's designed to capture things like emotional support, classroom organization, instructional support, the dynamic between the educator and the child. So it makes sense it might show a clearer link.
Right, so the type of quality measure really matters. But they didn't stop there, did they? The review broke things down even further, looking at specific kinds of interactions.
Yeah, they drilled down into what they called quality pedagogical interactions,
Yeah.
basically. Interactions not directly tied to specific curriculum content.
Okay, like what?
Things like building positive relationships, emotional climate, teacher sensitivity, then routines and structure, classroom organization, behavior management, also conversations and questioning. And finally, supporting children's play.
And did these different types show different levels of connection to outcomes?
They did, yeah. The significance rates varied quite a bit.
Okay, let's unpack that. What about building positive relationships, that emotional support piece?
For positive relationships, the significance rate was around 22–23%.
Still not super high.
No. And interestingly, they noted that studies done in the U.S. tended to show more significant positive links here compared to studies elsewhere.
That U.S. difference keeps popping up. Could it be cultural or how the tools interpret support?
It's possible. The review touches on that how measures developed in one context, often the U.S., might not capture quality in the same way or predict outcomes as strongly in other cultural settings.
Something to keep in mind. Okay, what about routines and structure, classroom organization?
That was slightly higher, around 25% significance, mostly positive links.
And anything notable there?
Yeah, the connection seems stronger in longitudinal studies.
The ones that follow kids over time.
Exactly. Which suggests maybe the benefit of a structured, predictable environment builds up gradually.
That makes intuitive sense. Kids often do well with predictability. Okay, next was conversations and questioning.
Right. This one had a higher significance rate, about 35%.
Better.
But the review highlighted that these links were primarily with cognitive academic outcomes. Things like language skills, early literacy.
So good conversations boost thinking skills.
Seems like it. That back and forth, asking good questions, extending children's ideas, it really matters for their cognitive growth.
Definitely. Okay, and the last one in this group was supporting play. You said this one stood out.
It really did. Supporting play emerged as the most consistent predictor in this category.
Oh, consistent.
Around 63% significance.
Wow, 63. That's a big jump.
Huge. Especially for language and communication outcomes. When adults skillfully support and extend children's play, that seems powerfully linked to development.
That's fascinating. So joining in, scaffolding, maybe adding language during play.
Exactly. Though, it's fair to mention, the review notes this finding was based on fewer studies compared to some other areas. So more research would be good, but it's a really strong signal.
A very strong signal for the importance of play and how adults engage with it. Okay, so those were the pedagogical interactions. What about interactions focused specifically on curriculum content, like teaching literacy or math?
But right, they looked at that too.
Yeah.
They had categories like global instructional support general teaching strategies.
Okay, and how did that fare?
Around 29% significance, mostly for cognitive academic outcomes. And again, they mentioned measures like the class instructional support domain tended to show more significant links here.
So effective teaching techniques matter for learning. Makes sense. What about specific subjects like literacy?
For literacy development interactions, it was around 31% significance, again tied to cognitive academic outcomes, especially academic skills.
Similar to general instruction.
Yeah, but they also found that tools specifically designed to measure literacy interactions showed even higher significance rates.
So the more targeted the measure, the clearer the link seems to be.
It was points that way.
Okay. What about language development within the curriculum?
That one was lower, surprisingly,
Mm.
around 60% significance overall.
Hmm. Any nuances there?
Again, longitudinal studies seem to show more positive findings. So maybe the impact of specific language instruction within the curriculum takes time to show up.
A cumulative effect again, perhaps. Right, what about math?
Mathematics learning interactions came in around 32% significance for cognitive academic outcomes.
Okay.
And similar to literacy, they noted that larger U.S. studies using math-specific measures tended to find stronger effects.
There's that US-centric pattern again, and the specific measure point. Okay, nearly there. Science and environment learning.
Also low significance around 16%. And the findings were quite mixed.
Mixed how?
Well, they even found one study with a significant negative association.
Negative. How could that happen?
It's hard to say from the review alone. Maybe the type of science activity wasn't developmentally appropriate, or the way quality was measured in that area wasn't quite right. It certainly suggests we need a better handle on what quality science interaction looks like.
Yeah, it definitely raises questions. And finally, diversity. Supporting individual needs, equality.
Also, low significance overall, around 16%.
Hmm.
But the few significant links they did find were all positive, connected to cognitive academic outcomes in a couple of studies.
So an area needing more research to really understand the impact.
Absolutely.
Okay, wow. We've gone through a lot of detail there. If we zoom back out, what are the main things listeners should take away from this whole review?
I think the biggest one is that those overall global quality scores,
Yeah.
they aren't consistently telling us how kids will actually do.
Right, that 17% finding was stark.
Yeah. It really suggests we might be oversimplifying quality if we just rely on a single number. Different things matter for different outcomes.
And the focus should perhaps shift more towards process quality, the actual interactions.
It seems that way. That link was stronger, around 31% overall. And within that, certain interaction types really stood out.
Like supporting play, that 63% was remarkable.
Exactly. That was the most consistent finding in the pedagogical interaction section. It really underscores the power of play.
But it wasn't all straightforward. Some things we might expect to be strongly linked, like positive relationships and social skills, or teaching support and cognitive skills. The links weren't always as high as maybe we'd assume.
That's true. It highlights the complexity. It's not always a simple cause and effect. And the tool used to measure quality clearly matters.
Yeah, the class subscales often showed up as having stronger links than broader environmental scales.
Right. Which suggests focusing on specific, observable interaction behaviors might be more informative.
And we also saw that study characteristics made a difference, longitudinal versus cross-sectional, sample size, risk of bias.
And country. That pattern of U.S. studies often finding higher significance is something we really need to think about.
Does it mean quality is defined differently or just measured differently, or maybe the interventions are different?
It could be all of the above. It definitely cautions against assuming a universal definition of quality works everywhere. Context seems crucial.
So the big headline is, it's complicated.
Yes. The relationship between ECC quality and child outcomes is definitely complex. It's not just about getting a high score. Specific interactions, especially supporting play, seem really key.
Okay, so to wrap this up, what's the final provocative thought you'd leave our listeners mulling over? Based on all this, what should someone, a parent, teacher, policymaker, really consider?
I think the main thing is to question those broad quality labels a bit. Instead of just asking, is this high quality? Maybe ask what kind of interactions are happening here.
Looking deeper.
Yeah. Given how strong the signal was for supporting play, for example, we should ask, are kids getting enough opportunities for rich, engaging play? And are the adults skilled in supporting that play effectively?
And maybe shifting focus from just ratings to fostering specific, impactful interaction skills.
Exactly. Perhaps the focus needs to move away from chasing a global score and towards really understanding and promoting the specific kinds of adult-child interactions that genuinely support development. Always remembering that context, the cultural setting, the individual children really matters.
That's a great point to end on. Look beyond the label, focus on the specific interactions, especially play, and remember context. This review certainly gives us a lot to think about regarding what truly constitutes quality.
It does. Hopefully, understanding these nuances helps us all find better ways to support children's early learning and development.
Absolutely. Thanks for walking us through that complex review.
My pleasure. It's fascinating stuff.